true for everybody, right? Sometimes it will help them reevaluate how they feel about a particular issue. Someone will say, wow, well, you do excellent work. But if this crops up and you haven't disclosed and you start missing days, then sometimes people feel like they have been misled in some way. So there has been some fallout sometimes for people. I mean, but then there are people who want to hire people with disabilities. They may be rare, but I always just want to hire research assistants with disabilities. I discriminate in the opposite direction, just to overcompensate for the other 55 faculty members who won't hire. But that's the rare thing. I think a lot of people, if you ask most career services offices, they would say don't disclose unless you have to.
And even my whole law school culture, I was told not to, by my student services folks, to not let anyone know I was getting accommodations on exams. And that really, and I, had to internalize that, and I found myself sort of spinning stories about why I wasn't in the exam room and where were you? And that really, really made me, just as a law student, made me feel very disconnected from my peers because I felt like I couldn't be myself. And as I got through 1L and quit being scared out of my mind all the time, I found some people that I could open up to, and there would be a good friend in most classes that I could just say, look, you know what, I have to get extra time, I get tired, I've done this forever, I'm not in the exam room with you. But sort of that culture really does put a distance, and I don't know necessarily what the answer is, but just know if you're going through that, you're not alone. And it really is a shame that law schools make you do that. Ben Foss, who's speaking later today, and who also wrote a letter for a book that Carrie and I co-edited called Lawyers Lead On, which is a book of letters from the current generation of disabled lawyers to the next generation, wrote a letter where he was going through a dual JD and BA program at Stanford, and the MBA people were like, go tell your professor that you're dyslexic and you need Excel spreadsheets electronically. And whereas law school was like, don't you dare tell anyone that you're getting books in electronic format, So just know that the legal profession is bad about that, and you shouldn't internalize the shame. It can be really hard, but I just think having conversations about it is really important, and knowing that you have community.
I think we have a question over here.
Oh, I have type 1 diabetes, and I get this question a lot when I tell people about it. Is it under control? And I feel like when I get that question, people are asking me well, do you really have diabetes? And the answer, is that my pancreas is broken. So, it's from a day-to-day basis. But I also don't want to give off the impression that I'm, having an episode or something, every day. So I just don't know how to answer that question.
That's a good one. The issue of sort of either illegal or clueless questions or comments and how to respond to those. Hopefully these will decrease as time and progress continues, but certainly we all encounter them, I believe. So I think, sort of being prepared, getting the shame out so that you're not sort of self-conscious and, I don't know, how would you answer that question?
I mean, I don't want to shame my interviewer by
right.
a stupid question.
No, of course not.
Well, it sort of feels like some of the questions that used to come pre-ADA or when the ADA was passed, you have a sort of, I think about disability shouldn't be that way as being sort of a hierarchy of understanding, and there's some disabilities that are more visible and people sort of get, or are more exposed to, and they sort of get more. Not great, but they get more, marginally. Whereas somebody in a wheelchair would roll up and they'd say, can you travel? Do you shower? Does your mom have to go with you on a trip? And these are common questions you can ask attorneys in the Department of Justice and the Disability Rights section who felt most comfortable working there because the federal government wasn't asking them those questions, but law firms were 20 years ago and 25 years ago. And so, I don't know, I have really bad migraines, and so sometimes if I tell people at work, and that's really has affected me in teaching, because it's a performance thing, and it's fatigue and side effects from medication, and not eating will trigger them and that sort of thing. I try, you're in a difficult situation because you're trying not to be in someone's face, like, what are you, an idiot? Are you a bigot? So I think I usually do something to the effect that I manage it as well as anyone can with a health condition, and but I'm not sure that that's a perfect answer. I mean, there's some things you just can't control, right? But I think that's really scary to people. But if they were to evaluate their own lives, they have all kinds of things they can't control, including taking care of their elders, taking care of kids, having a bad marriage,
Heart attack.
sudden heart attack, eating too many French fries, whatever it is, that their lives aren't all orderly either. But you're just sort of a walking example of how life isn't orderly and it's scary. So you have to give off the impression that you're managing it pretty well. You don't want to get into like, well, last week, blah, blah. But at the same time, I understand where you don't want to say, yeah, I'm totally fine now. No coverage under the ADA, no worries, no litigation. Yeah.
Can I just jump in really quick? I'm also type 1 as well, and I've found sort of my takeaway rule. I'm a 1L, so I'm really about rules and takeaways. If you don't